Came here, there was a very, very beautiful story there about Washington, D.C. and the history of Washington. And I would often talk to members here and tell about how this church got started and how large numbers of black people started here with the Baptist Church. The Baptist Church is not the oldest church here in Washington. As you may know, the oldest black church is Mount Zion Methodist Church over in Georgetown, and that was talked about today. They were here maybe 30 years or so before this church was built. But what happened with this church, I often tell people about a cockeyed general who came out of, white man, who came out of New York, somewhere in the state of New York. He was in the army, he was a general. And when he came down, he was stationed, they stationed him down in Virginia near Norfolk. And when he was down there, large numbers, this is somewhere around maybe 1862 or 1863, during the Civil War, large numbers of black people with their masters having gone off to war, they began to run away from their homes. And as they ran away from their homes, this general, Butler was his name, did find something to help black people really, because the governor of Virginia at that time said that what we want you to do, General, is to give me all of those black slaves who have run away from their homes. And when they have run away from their homes, I will take them and give them back to their rightful owner. What this man did, he said, no, as the general of the army here, the Union Army, what I'm going to do, I'm going to declare all of these men who come into my area, I'm going to declare each one of them to be a contraband of war. And if they are contraband of war, then they belong to me. And as a contraband. And what I'm telling them, if they want to, they can go up to Washington or any other place. They can go north and someplace where they can be free. And so they came up here. As far as the District of Columbia is concerned, you know that in the first days, there were really three cities. There was Alexandria down at the southern point, and there was Georgetown, a separate city, and there was Washington, a city. And then you also know that up here, Florida Avenue was the boundary of Washington, D.C., the northern boundary. Beyond that you had absolutely, you had just country, that's all. You might know that Abraham Lincoln went up there, and you go up there now, just up Georgia Avenue a little bit, up Fort Stevens, and that's where he would spend his summer days. Now, I'm not so smart. I just knew those things because I used to teach history in school, that's all. So, but when he let these people come up here, and Florida Avenue was the end of Washington, D.C., they stayed up right up here in this area, large numbers who were not over toward Georgetown. And they stayed up here in this area. And out here, this street out here, Vermont Avenue, was not a street in those days. It was a canal. That's what it was, a stream of water. And you might know that because here at when they built the hospital up here, not Freeman's, but Howard University Hospital, when they built that hospital, there was so much water under what had been old Griffith Stadium that they had to channel all of that water. They had to take a pipe and channel all of it down to the Potomac River. So those people used to come and stay here in this area. Then there were three women and men, husband and wives, and one extra woman who was the sister-in-law of one of these three couples. They got together back in 1866 and said that they wanted to start a church. And so they started a church back in 1866. and they met around in various homes. Then they met over here up 10th Street a little while, and around about until they built this, not this building, they built that building over there. Reverend Brooks built that, not all of it, but part of that original building is still over there right now, where that he built that. Now, he died in 1884, and so you can see how long it was back during the 1870s. And then after he built that building, he passed away. Reverend George W. Lee came from North Carolina. He came in the next year in 1885. And if you look out front and see what I consider a very beautiful brickwork out the front of that church, he came in 1885 and built. Well, he put that front on the church and that type of thing like that. And then the third pastor came in 1911, and he was here from 1911 until the end of really the last week in 1928 when he died. And that was Reverend James Willis, and he came and he built the back part of the original church building over there that extends back to that alley. He did that. Then in 1929, Reverend C.T. Murray came, and he was one of the great pastors here. Well, all of them were great pastors. And he came and he stayed here almost 40 years. And I told him that I was going to put into history. He was trying to keep the exact number of days. I'm not criticizing him, 39 years and so many months. And I said, no, we're just going to round it out and call it 40 years because you're sitting right here anyhow. And so he stayed here 40 years and is responsible for having built that middle building right there that has his name right on the outside. And then here, since I've been here all my life, and I'm not emphasizing my great Christian life. I don't mean that. I was just almost born across the street, and I'm serious. And the one thing in this building that you could see, I would know, but if you look right there where you see those things, you see those electric plugs. That's the only thing I had to do with this building. That what I did, the men were in here working on this building, painting this building, and I told them, one of the fellows here with me in the church said, he's going to build, he's going to paint. So they gave me a paintbrush and they let me paint one brick right there. So if you want to go up there and look at it, that's the one that I painted. And at the end of painting that one, and all the fellows up there, we were paying them all this $25,000 and $30,000 an hour to do all this other work they were doing. Everybody stopped while I painted that one brick. And then they took the thing away from me and said, thank you, Reverend, that's enough. You've done a great job. So I think I've given you enough of the history of this church. God bless you and keep you.